A winter storm is headed our way next week. How much snowfall are we going to get? What's the latest information as we're going to track that incoming winter mess? I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Matt Standridge. We have a storm system now this weekend. We got to get through first before we get to the next one. So let's start off with some of this rain that's changing over to snow right now in parts of Kansas. We may get some of that early tomorrow morning. A couple spotty rain showers, maybe even a few flurries flying around parts of Benton County, Washington County, Carroll County, and Madison County. From the mountains south, it's going to be a little bit harder, though. I think that cooler air will mainly stay in the mountains and towards the north. But we can get a few flurries tomorrow morning, Sunday. And what this storm system is going to do is going to keep us a little bit cooler going into the middle of next week after this front passes through, giving us a good setup for more wintry weather. If this storm system had more of a cold setup beforehand, we'd be getting more snow showers, but we've been on the warmer side so far. Our next storm system is now making its way into the lower 48. If you've been tracking the storm with us the past couple of days, it was sitting in the Gulf of Alaska, just pulling down this cold Arctic air from the polar regions, and then now sliding it across the Pacific Ocean, is making its way landfall right now in Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon. This is our next storm system. This arrives Tuesday. All right, so let's talk about what's next. Let's talk about some of the things that we've learned over the past 24 to 48 hours. This storm system still looks like it's hitting Tuesday and into Wednesday. I think overall Wednesday we kind of wrap this thing up. It's mainly Tuesday, the second half of Tuesday, is when this thing really starts to hit. But the timing's been shifted a little bit. When we're looking at all the data, it's coming in just a tad slow. So instead of hitting around lunchtime, it may be closer to 2 o'clock, give or take depending on where you live. If you live closer or in the Sooner State country and green country across Oklahoma, it may be a little bit earlier. You live a little bit deeper into Arkansas, maybe a little bit later. But overall, kind of estimating ballpark 2 p.m., precipitation starts to move in. That impacts what we get. As this thing comes in a little bit later, the beginning of the storm system may be more of a wintry mix, because before the storm arrives, you get more of that daytime heating before the system comes in. We may get to the low 40s briefly in the afternoon, even in northwest Arkansas. That means we're probably going to have a more widespread mix for everyone at first. But on the flip side, because it is coming in later, that gives us more nighttime hours when it is colder to get some more of that heavy snow. So what this means is that you kind of get both extremes coming in. You get a heavy mix at first, which really kind of messes with snowfall totals. It's going to be hard to accumulate snow at first, but then the snow comes in and you've got some good nighttime hours with it. But depending on how kind of liquidy that base is, it may be tough for some of the snowflakes to stick at first. But if you get a heavy enough band, doesn't matter. It's going to start to accumulate pretty quickly after the mix. The track still looks about the same. We think that track comes in out of Dallas and then starts to wrap its way towards the north, and he's kind of taking a slight left-hand turn if you're from the storm's perspective. And that track going over central and southern Arkansas still keeps us on the colder side of this storm. That means majority we're getting wintry weather. Now, whether that's kind of that wintry mix or snow, that's what we're trying to figure out. But it's still a good setup for some snow across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Central Arkansas, it is going to be a mess. A lot of times it's going to be rain. Overnight, we'll switch over to that wintry mix. But you get south of Little Rock, especially if you get closer to Pine Bluff, south of Hot Springs, this thing's just going to be a lot of rain. Now, there could be times when you mix a little bit of snow in, probably not going to accumulate all that well because of all that rainfall that's going to be mixed in as well. Jonesboro, northeastern Arkansas, you've got to go farther west. The west, more you go towards those mountains, better chance of snow that you're going to get. Of course, right now, the higher you are, the better chance of snow, and the higher the snowfall total will be for you. All right, let's jump into the meat and potatoes. This system comes in, crossing the Red River, mid to late morning on Tuesday. You see it crossing, there's the time. We're going to leave that up there, 9 o'clock Tuesday morning. Rain crossing the Red River, but we're closer to the freezing mark at first. But because this thing comes in a little delayed, we may have a chance just with daytime heating. Not that you're going to see the sun, but the sun still is able to put some solar activity through those clouds. We may get to some low 40s at first. That means a lot of rain is going to be possible at first, maybe even parts of northwest Arkansas. Now, if you live higher up, though, it's going to be a mix at least most of the time for the start. Later into the evening, once we cross after sunset, that's when temperatures will start to cool off, and that's when we have the chance going from the mix in order to some snow across northwest Arkansas. In the River Valley, close to the Arkansas River, it may still be some rain for a while, maybe a mix here and there. Later, after sunset even more, that's when we get into the colder time frame, and then we'll get more snowfall. Northwest Arkansas, I think by 7, 8 o'clock, it's mainly some heavy snow for us. In the River Valley, especially south of Fort Smith, and some of the terrain as you're going around Midland and Hartford and south towards south of Greenwood to Waldron, and then back west into Poteau and Big Cedar, Tallahena, we'll be over to snow. But you get a little bit lower in elevation, closer to the Arkansas River, there may still be this lingering pocket of some warm air. And so that's why you see this nudge where you've got more of that wintry mix. But you get away from the river, higher up in the Boston Mountains, more snow. You go south, closer to the fringes of the Ouachitas, more snow for us as well. And then even later into the overnight hours, it just intensifies. I mean, we're talking about heavy snow coming down for the metros in Northwest Arkansas. This is when we get the accumulation. This is when you start racking up a couple inches around Poteau too. Now, later into the overnight hours, we're going to wrap this system up, push it on out. Could be a mix of snow and wintry mix just all over the place. Now, I will tell you the good news is that whenever you see this pink, it is not ice. We are not talking about freezing rain in this setup. That's some good news with this storm. It is either rain or snow or somewhere in between. What's going on in the in-between phase is right above you, you've got these massive wet snowflakes that are falling. But right before they hit you, they mostly melt. You may still get the kernel inside them that are still falling, but they're just gonna be wet snowflakes that are just kind of like a water balloon. They hit the ground and they're just wet. They melt pretty quickly. So that's the problem with our snowfall totals close to the Arkansas River. Snowflakes just barely melting in time before they reach the ground. That's the tough part with this forecast. Some snowflakes may be able to survive, and that'll change your snowfall total. Now, later in the day on Wednesday, as we're waking up, some of us are going to have some snow on the ground. Some of us are going to have kind of a wintry mess where you got a little snow here, maybe some bare patches there, especially near the Arkansas River. There may still be some flurries later throughout the day, but the accumulating snow is going to take place from about 8 o'clock to about in the evening on Tuesday to about 4 or 5 o'clock Wednesday morning. Waking up Wednesday morning, we'll see how it goes. Well, of course, we'll have all our crews out giving you the latest information on how much snow actually fell. This is our best idea, but as you guys know, snowfall forecasts are all over the place and everyone gets something different. So keep that in mind. Take this with a grain of salt. We're working hard on this snowfall forecast, but as you guys know, it is different from town to town. Across the natural state, you live from Little Rock, south or east, not much snow for you. We could get a trace in Little Rock. Most of the time it's going to be rain and then some wintry mix, maybe some flurries here and there, but most of the time it's going to be hard to accumulate some stuff right around Little Rock. You get closer to Conway or you head west to Hot Springs, we may get more of that inch, maybe even a little bit more on higher elevations. You go farther north and west, it is all about terrain. It looks wonky, doesn't it? You've got this little sliver of the light blue that is following the Arkansas River because we're probably going to still have that pocket of warm air that's fighting some of those snowflakes. So it's going to be a huge difference from folks that are right on the shores of the river. You go north of Clarksville, we may be getting an inch or so. So huge difference from north to south over a very small distance. Same story as you go around Fort Smith. It's going to be tough. But on the south side of Fort Smith, you get towards Southside High School, you get towards Fort Chaffee, especially on the south side of the base, and then towards Greenwood, we could get a couple inches. But you get close to the river, it's just tougher. You just go from south side of Fort Smith near the river and you head towards Poteau where we could get a few inches. Big difference there on 271. And then as you head towards Spiro. But then in Northwest Arkansas, let's talk for a little bit. I think a lot of the time at the beginning of the storm system, for the first couple hours, it's going to be a wintry mess. Snowflakes and raindrops, accumulation tough. Now, the farther north you go, or maybe you head closer to Beaver Lake, you get into some of the higher terrain and maybe more snow more of the time. That's why you see this purple swath. This is where most of the time we're getting snow. I think from the high elevations of Washington County, Madison County, then you head eastbound right towards Berryville and Harrison and east of Eureka Springs, we could get some serious snowfall higher up. You get away from the terrain where we're still higher on the Arkansas, that Ozark Plateau, few inches likely. I think a lot of us are going to aim for 3 inches. You know, we have that 3+ because overall 3 inches is our ballpark number at the moment. There could be a few of us that try to get a little bit more. There could be some that get closer to that 2-inch mark, but are right around 3 inches or so. I think from Fayetteville and West Fork and Greenland, northbound through Rogers, Springdale, Bentonville, Centerton, and the Bella Vista area. You also head south. It's interesting right around parts of eastern Oklahoma. You get close to Poteau Mountain, Sugarloaf, Kavanaugh Hill. We could get a little bit more. In fact, there's going to be a difference. You know how some folks live on Kavanaugh Hill. there's going to be big difference from who live on the hill and who live in town in Podo. The elevation is everything with this storm system. You get farther west, though, the bands of precip may just not be that strong. So yeah, we could be getting snow most of the time in Tulsa, but it's going to be lighter. I think the heavier stuff is hitting right across the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. So it's a huge mess. I wanted to leave this up for a little bit because you guys know where your town is. You're kind of looking, studying the map. Can't hit everyone, but overall, near the Arkansas River, less snow, warm air that's going to fight. Now, if there's a case where we start to break through that warm layer, we're going to let you guys know, because if we can break through the warm layer, we're getting some good snow. But right now, keeping that warm layer in place is going to be probably the story, the name of the game. So we'll watch it closely, and it's all about temperature. You know, if it's 36 where you are, you're probably getting snow. If it's 37, 38, that's when you get more to the mix. I mean, it's so close. As you guys know, temperatures range from town to town. Even at 36, you're thinking, Matt, that's still above freezing. Exactly. We're just below freezing right above our heads. But at 36, we're probably going to keep that snowflake intact. At 37, 38, it's just a little too warm. And that's why you see such a mess when it comes to the snowfall map. All right, a couple things to wrap up what we think may happen. These are some things that we're a little bit more confident on. We're more confident on that timing coming in just a little bit later into the afternoon. If that changes, we'll let you know. If this thing starts to come in a little bit earlier throughout the day, we may not have the chance to hit those 40s. It may be better snowfall totals for us. Or if it comes even later, just really starting to happen at night, that's some good snowfall, because you'll start to cool down again once everything comes in. It's more of that winter mix or snow. Now, overall, we do think heavy mix area-wide first. It doesn't matter if you're in Bella Vista. Doesn't matter if you're in Waldron or Clarksville or Paris or Ozark. Probably a heavy mix at first. By the time you get to nightfall, that's when our best chance of that accumulating snow will take place. Of course, sunsets are somewhere between like about 5:30 to 6 o'clock, depending on where you live. And that's going to be our best chance to start that transition over to more snow. But if you live by the Arkansas River, it is just going to be tougher with those warmer conditions. So that's why we got that weather alert coming up Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to have several updates as we get closer. We just wanted to give you our best idea that's happening right now. Our idea is probably going to change over the next couple of days as we get closer to the storm system. Remember, it's just now hitting the Pacific coast. Once it gets more over land and we can digest it with more of our land observations, we're going to get some better data on the timing and the strength of this storm. So I'd say even by tomorrow night, we'll have even a much better idea, a little bit more clarity. And then Monday will be probably our last forecast, Monday night. And then we just jump into the storm Tuesday midday and into the afternoon. And that's why we got that weather alert. We have that weather alert for Wednesday too, because depending on how much snow falls, it could be some cleanup throughout the day on Wednesday, just trying to clear the roads for us. Wednesday night into Thursday, we may have some refreezing. That could make it a bit tricky even headed out Thursday morning. Now, we don't have a weather alert for Thursday because by then I think all the precipitation's out, but there may be some slick spots waking up Thursday. Big storm for us. We'll continue to give you the latest information as it comes in.